That worked. Welcome to Office Hours for July. This is the monthly session where people get to ask questions and possibly find answers about the quandaries that are going on Zoom. Welcome to Office Hours. And there, I'll do this. All right. Okay, so are there questions and concerns that we can address? So Sue, I understand AI let you down. I don't have a ready fix because it sounds like you did everything right.
Yeah.
So the
That's
standard
okay. I'll
IT,
just test it again.
okay, yeah. The standard
It's when
IT
you're out of
response
town
is,
and something doesn't
yeah,
work again, you think, oh, they changed something and no one posted on LinkedIn or, I might have missed something. So,
was this
Sue,
different
can you go
computer
into
perhaps?
Sue, can you go into the meeting on LinkedIn on Zoom, okay, the past meeting, and see whether or not the AI summary is listed there?
yeah, it's
Not,
not
okay.
because I just wrote you a note. I kept waiting for the email, which now it used to take an hour to come. Now they come quickly.
Yeah.
And then I went in and I looked for my recorded meetings. I looked everywhere the next morning and didn't find anything. So again, not a big problem because I use Descript for editing, and so I can get the whole transcript. It was just that I had stopped the recording at one point because it wasn't part of the didactic teaching. It was answering a question, but I thought it would be useful to have it. So I was going to just restart it on Fathom. That's where it let me down. But Christopher, I wouldn't probably remember this if it were another 3 weeks from now, if I'd missed office hours and all of that, but it's been on my mind since Tuesday.
I understand. So, with something like that, the question then becomes, all right, what was different? So I know now this is your laptop, so I'm assuming everything else is the same.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a puzzle.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like there was a Zoom update I missed or because all that stuff got reconciled over the weekend. It was the first group Zoom meeting I had, the first Zoom that I did uh, after that. Yeah. So anyway, just a question out of the gate.
Okay. All right. So then I'll share something if there are no other questions.
I
I'll
actually
share.
have one.
Yes.
So I noticed that I've been seeing some things that say that you can now stream Zoom directly to LinkedIn without having to go through StreamYard. Doesn't work that way?
I've not seen that done successfully.
That's what I was going to ask.
I've seen people make claims. I've not seen evidence.
I was going to ask you to teach me how to do that. Now, apparently, I looked on Zoom and there says there is a way to do it, but it's 3 or 4 or 5 different steps, and then I don't want to have to do that every time. I don't have time to do that every time.
Yeah, no, I wish it were a easy thing where you could just press play and go.
Right.
Um, StreamYard is great for getting to various platforms. Zoom is great for getting to a couple of platforms. It'd be nice if, yeah, there was a API for Zoom to go straight to LinkedIn. I'll see what I can do. I'll see who
Thank
I
you.
know at Zoom.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Because, well, see, I need to contact them about a bunch of things. Um, so you all have your own Zoom accounts, right? My question for you, what do you want to happen if the host suddenly loses connection? So while
Oh,
you're hosting, what do you want to happen? What should happen?
I'd love for it to be able to continue going with somebody else, with just having it go and not let me try to join in another way.
Okay. And it will do that if you have a co-host
But if you don't have a co-host,
Well, that's where it becomes really interesting. A random person selected by Zoom will become the host.
really?
Yeah, isn't that a wonderful thing? They're helping you out. A random person, they of course will be host, and now, hey, they can do with this meeting whatever they should choose. Let everyone in? Sure, why not?
Do they know that they've become the host?
They do get an alert. Hey, you're now the host. Now, all right, if I were the random person selected, I'd be fine. It's like, all right, chances are it'd be a meeting that I know who the host is. And, all right. But there is a better way. It is awkward. So if the best option is to have a co-host. That way, they can keep going. They should have an idea of how you want to proceed. And then you can connect again and hey, you're back to being the host. That's fine. If there is no co-host, you're presenting to a group of complete strangers and they're all random. And you don't want any one of them to be entrusted with the power of the host. There is something you can do. It is awkward. It is inelegant. I'm not a fan of it, but fine, it exists. You can have everyone move to the waiting room. Now, is it perfect? No.
Are you saying that's something you can set up as a setting when you start a meeting?
You can set that up on zoom.us so that in case the host drops, everyone goes to a waiting room. And then when the host reconnects, they can let everyone back in. If
But
you
it's
have
just a setting you have to do. Okay.
correct, it's just a
Okay.
setting.
Mhm.
And Zoom makes things, there are account settings and there are settings. Settings, hey, anyone who uses this account, they are set up in such a way, all right, here are the things that they can do. Account settings, well, that's a level above. If it's your account, yeah, you should be in charge of these things. Account settings is where you would customize the waiting room.
Mhm.
This setting is buried there. So one of the questions is, hey, if the host loses connection, what do you want to happen? And you can say, move everyone to the waiting room. So that's one of the customizations available under the administrative settings. So since you are all owners of your own Zoom accounts, I asked the question so that you can, gee, I'm going to make sure I have a co-host every time. Or, well, if this happens, I know what's going on. I'll reconnect as I can, and then I'll let everyone in from the waiting room.
My guess is this is for the paid program, you can have a co-host. I don't believe the free account allows for a second host. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
So that would be your option if you're using the free limited program, just as a fail-safe. Unless
well,
that option isn't there for the free program.
no, because with the free, I don't believe you're with the free, I don't believe you're allowed to customize the waiting room.
I haven't used it enough. I mostly use other people's as a participant. I don't lead a lot of the groups.
I understand. I will check, and then you can check as well and let me know if you see that option there on the account settings so that you can move everyone. Because hey, connectivity problems, they happen.
Yep.
So what have you seen that has been really wonderful on Zoom? It's like, wow, that person really did that well. Or it's like, if they would just not do this, my day would be so much better. Either one. Is there anything that you've witnessed recently that is And you can, you don't have to share the name to protect the embarrassed.
I like that I'm starting to see more people using it for some of the
Okay.
meetings that get streamed onto LinkedIn, which is one of the reasons that I asked about being able to stream it directly.
Yeah.
Because Streamline doesn't give you that same kind of interactivity.
No, yeah. There are lots of different third parties that work well with Zoom. So far, I've not seen one that plays well with Zoom and LinkedIn. So there are conference apps like Hoova or Hoobalo, where you can have the meeting on Zoom, but have the chat on a different platform.
Hmm.
And it comes in handy for a variety of different types of things. Now, yeah, I would love to see better integration between Zoom and LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's my wish list. One of
I'll,
the things, I appreciate that. One of the things that concerns me is if I do get kicked off or there's a co-host and it's recording on my machine,
Mhm.
okay, then I can't do anything about it if I'm kicked off for that time frame, as opposed to recording on the cloud.
Yeah.
Now, if I record on the cloud, does that stay with the meeting or does that stay with me? I mean, if I get kicked off, does my cloud recording stop
I don't believe it does. I
as long
have
as the
not
meeting
tested that
continues?
though. But Sue, you're saying yes, it stops if the host disappears? Or that's
I don't know about the cloud recording because I record to my local drive,
So do
so
I.
that does not continue.
correct.
Right.
And the other difficult thing, Christopher, I find is quickly getting on my phone to try to log on to send a message to everybody about what I'm trying to do,
Ah,
which
Yeah.
is the other challenge. And one thing that occurred to me that I haven't done, I haven't been bumped off in 6 months, but that might be a place to use that. When you schedule, at least on the desktop app, you schedule every meeting and it says enable, ongoing chat meeting from now on. That at least would be a place I could get to it if I'm bumped off and I still have electricity. If it's not electricity, if I have everything but internet, I could at least figure out how to message them. But
yeah.
that's always a challenge no matter what platform you use. And I realized in my course and in the mentor time that I do, only in the last few months have I said to people, if there's an issue, I'm not on email or I get bumped off, WhatsApp, because it pops up. It's one of the few notifications on my phone because it's global and there are people trying to reach me at times. So this is a reminder to me to look at those things.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, how many times would it be people in a meeting that I wouldn't want someone to be a co-host? And even when it's like the other night, we're all new course participants, but they all the same thing. They're all interested in what the topic is. I know them really well. I know the type of person. If I'm not there, they'd just go on and talk and network. They'd have a blast. So I rarely am giving keynotes or presentations to outside, to people right now. And so I'm thinking maybe I could enable that for my group because I wouldn't care if
Sure.
they just arbitrarily chose someone.
And that's fine. It's one of those, I think folks should just be aware of a just
Yeah.
in case,
Mhm.
because just in case occasionally happens.
Yeah, a group that I'm in, we typically, the person that starts it doesn't end up finishing, and they'll hand off to one of the others. Again, like you, Sue, that we all basically know each other and we're known quantity.
Mhm.
And so there's not that same risk of some random person that decides to invite the world in and make a mess.
Or, It's, I like to think of it almost like one of those arena type sporting situations where the camera is suddenly on this unsuspecting individual. It's like, wait, now what? Uh,
Mhm.
it could be, it could be an amusing interaction.
Christopher, I don't know if it's just me. I'm curious. It seems like whatever protections Zoom has enabled that help us all, there's very, very little Zoom bombing, even for people who post their Zoom link on an event on LinkedIn, which means you still have to know about the event to see it. But I was thinking about that the other day when I registered for something and the Zoom link was right, or the link was right there. That's my sense of it. I don't know. You're on a lot more meetings than I am.
No, I agree. It's gotten a lot better because there are safeguards you can do at the account level. It's like, hey, everyone who everyone has to go through a registration process, or only verified accounts can log into the meeting. Here's the link, and they have to fill out this registration form to join. Oh, gee, nope, that's not a, so
Yeah.
it is a lot better. And that, the other aspect, I think people have stopped finding it to be a fun thing. I mean, it was never, it's like, all right, causing chaos, really? That's what people find fun?
Yeah.
Um,
Our public meeting in town, a public meeting in town recently was Zoom bombed.
mm-mm.
And the town responded by saying, okay, they're public meetings, we'll be able to have Zoom, but nobody can comment. And so, the only way you can ask or make a comment now is by coming in person. So
Okay.
that was their solution. I said, but you could change settings. And I think whoever on the board made the decisions just said, well, this is what we'll do. And didn't realize there were some other options to make it still accessible. They're public, so you can't hide, or you can't make it so that it's not a public link for people to come in, but
Yeah, but as you mentioned, Marjorie, I mean, there are other workarounds. Uh, if you
nobody
have,
asked me.
but they should have.
One of the
Uh,
ones that I've seen is that all comments go to the host or an administrator,
mhm.
and they're the one who decides which gets actually put into the feed, or they read the comments aloud.
Exactly. And you can turn off comments for a period of time. You can as the host or co-host can delete comments. You can
You,
disallow someone else from deleting comments.
you can also mute everybody, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
default. So one of the things I encourage people to do on their own accounts is uh, help everyone by making the default people come in muted,
Mhm.
because because there's a cacophony of chaos around you, that doesn't need to follow you into the meeting. And
Yep.
so once people are settled, and they can unmute themselves. But making it a default, everyone joins the meeting muted. If
Mhm.
it is a speaker sort of event, once the speaker has been given the stage, then no one's able to unmute unless that's what the speaker would like. It's like, all right, hey, I want people to be able to unmute throughout the presentation. Fine, that's your call. We can also change it so that they can only unmute when you get to your question slide. So the speaker is not thrown by, well, gee, wait, I'm hearing, no. The speaker has the stage. They should not be surprised by interruption. Now, on the events that I do, yeah, speaker is always a co-host. So have I lost connection? Yeah, sure. The speaker, and I make everyone who has a speaking role at the event a co-host, just in case. And that way they can always unmute themselves.
Mhm.
I have my settings set in two different ways. If I'm doing a one-on-one meeting, there is a waiting room. Just because if it's a one-on-one meeting, I want to make sure that I'm there too. Okay, when they get started. Otherwise, there's no reason for it. But when I'm doing group meetings, like the Lunch and Learns, I don't have a waiting room enabled because I want people to be, I don't want to have to let people in the middle of the meeting. I want them just to be able to come in when they need to.
And so and I do something similar, except I disable the waiting room at an appointed time. So
That was my question.
yes, you can. So if it's your meeting, on the participant panel at the bottom where it says more, you can click on that. And then now that's if you're a host or co-host.
Okay.
So let me do this. All right, so now if you click on the more under the participant window, you can see enable or disable waiting room.
I'm not seeing that.
I'm not seeing it either. I don't have the more under participants. I only have more at the bottom of the screen.
I think you need to make us a co-host for us to see that.
Right, and I made Linda a co-host.
Oh,
Let's-
okay.
Let's try this as well.
So you said under the participants.
So on
Oh,
the
okay.
participant window on the side,
Okay.
at the very bottom of the participant
Oh,
window, more,
Let's see.
and that is where you can get to some things quickly.
I don't see more. I see 3 dots.
Right, so do I.
Is that what you're talking
Ah,
about?
so enabled waiting room. Got it.
So yes, that right there.
Okay. And so then if you unclick that,
Then
then,
the waiting room is turned off.
okay.
Oh, I've never seen that. I didn't realize that there were options over there other than
Absolutely.
the mute all.
So yeah, it comes in handy. So hey,
So
you
I
could
just
play a
re-enabled
join
that.
or
Okay.
leave sound.
Mhm.
So a chime. If you want people to be notified when someone is joining or leaving, you can have it play a sound, or you can disable that.
Yeah. I have that disabled.
And yeah, this is where you can get to a lot of things quickly. And if you're a co-host on somebody else's meeting, it's like, oh, let me just help myself out by muting all upon entry.
Got it.
Now, when you lock a meeting, what does that mean?
That's a security feature. So if something's gone horribly off the rails, at that point, nobody can share the screen except the host. You can restore order, kick out anyone that you would need to, report whomever you would need to. It captures the screen at the moment that you lock it, so you can say, oh yeah, that's the miscreant right there.
Hmm. So much to learn.
Absolutely. It is. There are a bunch of functions and features that are helpful with your own Zoom accounts before your meeting, before engaging with the functions and features. Play with them, try them out, see how they work, raise a question, send me a note. Hey, have you run into this situation? How does this work? I might turn that question into a post and answer the question.
Okay, here's another one. I know on StreamYard, or at least I've seen people do it, where they have the pre-opening slides before the meeting actually starts.
Mhm.
Okay, can you do that on Zoom as well? And if so, how? Because if people are sitting in the waiting room, or I'm not quite there yet,
Okay.
okay?
The twofold answer. You could have a video playing in the waiting room.
Okay,
So you could have, you know, an instructional video. Hey, we're going to get started in a couple of minutes. These are the things that you need to have prepared. Today, we're going to cover chapters A, and, we're going to go over
Mhm.
this information. So make sure that you have your workbook, your beverage, and your comfy chair, and we'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. And that will play on a loop in the waiting room.
okay,
Now, after the meeting started, you can share a file, and that can be a video file, and that will play for everybody. But that is just sharing a file within the meeting.
okay. Thank you.
Now, and you can make both of those in something like Canva. So make an MP4, load that into the customized waiting room, and then that will play. And I think you get 30 seconds, which is a long time.
Yeah, I haven't done video on Canva. I use Canva for other things, but not for that.
It's an option. The thing to note with putting a video in the waiting room, it's best is if it does not have sound, because it will just play. If it has sound, then you have to tell people to enable the sound. So, maybe that first slide, or maybe you pointing to the corner, please uncheck the box so that you can hear this.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I don't know that I want to do that, but I want to know how.
Absolutely. My customizations to the waiting room are minimal. There's an announcement, hey, this session might be recorded. So you can put language in there that is suitable, or you can put your logo, your information about the session. Now, one of the things that should be in there is the meeting name, so you can let people know they're in the right place. When I'm hosting for other organizations, I make sure I have a copy of their logo and their information so that when people get to the waiting room, they're not seeing me, they're seeing the logo they expect.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Thank you.
My
So
pleasure.
when I'm using StreamYard, I always find my head tipped, and I'm trying to tip it back, but it's opposite. I don't find that with Zoom. Is there
Interesting.
something I'm doing that, why is it so much harder to keep my head straight?
Oh, thank you. I thought it was just me. And I keep playing like this, trying to figure it
I
out.
know,
Haven't
it's
noticed
not
that.
just you.
I'll have to play with it.
Ah,
It's
gee.
terrible.
I keep feeling like I'm looking like this, and then I try to move that way, but it's a mirror image from what I'm used to.
And so I'm
And-
constantly readjusting.
Okay, so wait, do you have your video mirrored in Zoom?
I
Or,
don't know.
okay,
Is it a setting here?
you can have it set on, it's under your video settings. So if you have it mirrored, it's only mirrored for you.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I'm seeing video settings. Let's see. Mirror my video.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's clicked. So what does that do? Does that,
Well, it acts like a mirror for you. So when
oh,
you raise your hand, like, all
yep,
right, I'm raising my
right,
right hand, but it on the screen, it appears, yeah.
yep, because that's my left. This is my right. So I see it as left and right, but you're seeing it
The other
reverse.
side.
Okay.
Right. The mirroring is only for you. We don't see it.
So what
Um,
happens with StreamYard? Why is that so wonky?
I don't know. I have not played with that or observed that about engaging on StreamYard. I haven't
I've noticed it a couple of times and it drives, when I'm sitting on screen doing that, it drives me crazy. I'm constantly, wait a minute.
It's very distracting. I
It
feel.
is, and it's distracting to me, so it's gotta be distracting to other people.
Yeah,
I understand.
so you may have another post.
Yeah.
Why are you looking crooked on StreamYard? And how can you fix?
That could be a potential post. I like
They
that
also
idea.
don't let you blur anything. Like I'm in my office that's also our pantry, it's also
Yeah.
our overflow, and I'm really grateful that you all can't see all my groceries and other things back there. But when I get on StreamYard, at least as far as I can tell, that's not an option.
Blur is not, but I thought they had added virtual backgrounds.
They do, but you have to do that in advance to getting on the screen,
Yeah.
Ah,
while you're in the
Okay.
green room or whatever they call it.
Yep.
mhm.
It is not
Or
as
you're still
easy as it is
backstage.
with Zoom.
No, no. Zoom makes it very easy.
These are first world problems, I understand.
But when we're working in the virtual world, you want to make sure that you look as good and sound as good as you can.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's all about we're better able to show up as ourselves when we're comfortable.
Mhm.
So whatever makes you comfortable, whether that's a virtual background, a blur, whatever makes you comfortable,
Mhm.
you're
But
better able to
crooked
show up.
is, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, because then I'm trying to fix it and I keep fixing it the wrong way. And then I say, well, it says that I'm straight when my head is like this. So now I have to keep my head like this and then maybe it will look straight, but no.
I will have to do more um, StreamYard sessions and see if I am noticing that.
Mhm.
I only do StreamYard with other people. It's not something I own, so.
Right, me
Well,
too.
yeah, and I haven't noticed it either with other people or myself. So maybe I
Mhm.
should do more and pay attention to those esoteric things.
See, I've got the door right behind me, so there's this straight line, so it's, but I can't really even figure out which direction I need to tip my head because it's opposite. So Sue was asking you about your podcast coming up. Talk to us about that.
Oh, well, you know what? I haven't launched it yet.
But what's it gonna be?
So what I'm noodling around with is a couple of different things. I would enjoy having a conversation podcast
Ooh,
talking about, things that I'm curious about, things that other people could be curious about. I enjoy having conversations and learning something because everybody I know can teach me something
Mhm.
and I want to learn. Um, but also, I'm thinking about a solo podcast just on basically Zoom and business virtual event strategies and tips. Hey, here's something that you can implement this week and just make it a 5-minute podcast. Uh,
Mhm.
although I both ideas are intriguing, the solo is easier to set up because there are only one person involved.
right.
You don't have to find guests, which
Exactly.
is always a challenge.
So all right, I will just be bold. I will commit to launching this quarter. I was going to say this month, but we're almost, we're a third into the month.
Right.
So this quarter, Q2, there will be a podcast.
Very good.
Actually, Q3. No, my,
3. Yeah, it is Q3. Q3.
you caught me off guard there for a minute.
I caught me off guard there for a second. Yeah.
So,
We are barely into Q3. So yeah,
yep.
Q3, it will launch.
Christopher, do you do anything related to audio for creating books? Read books on
I
Audible or other stuff? Is that anything that you've got
I do.
familiarity with?
Yes. I've done a few audiobooks. It is, I do it as a book or author captures my attention. So I'm not constantly going out and auditioning for a variety of books. Um, but I've done a couple. It's a lot of fun. It's an interesting challenge. Do you have a book coming out that you need an author? Or, I mean, you need a narrator?
I actually want to narrate it myself. This is my Liturgy of Easy Walks
Ah,
book that I don't know if you're familiar with that.
yes.
So, yeah, they're little short essays on actually what reminded me was you talking about 5-minute podcast, because the essays are each just about 5 minutes in length. And I've recorded a few. I thought I might record some more, have the MP3 files, and then not sure how much is involved in actually creating it either as a serial podcast or an Audible book. I'm not sure, any advice or thoughts would be welcome.
Okay. The podcast is easier. I say that because, all right, Audible has certain technical standards that you have to adhere to. And they will say, well, gee, the noise floor is not low enough. Please try again.
Mhm.
Well, gee, it doesn't meet our specifications. Please try again. If you are a few hours into a recording, you don't want the please try again. Not if you have to re-record, no.
Right.
So from that aspect, a podcast is easier. But people expect a certain level of audio quality on a podcast. And that is, I think, easy to do on most PC or laptop recording equipment. Even Zoom. A lot of people use Zoom and just get the audio file from Zoom and turn that into a podcast. So, yeah. When can we expect it?
I've already recorded a few that are just on my my website. I've got a blog that so then you have to have a platform, you have to, like Spotify, or you have to create accounts for these. I honestly am completely at sea about any of that.
There are a variety of platforms at a variety of price points. A friend of a few of us, Brenda Miller, she has launched now a couple of podcasts, and I forget what platform she busy something or, but while I have forgotten what platform she uses, I believe is on her podcast. So if you look for enthusiastically unemployed, or no, enthusiastically self-employed, her podcast, you should find answers. And you may find episodes that include people you know.
Include people we know?
That
Oh, like you.
Well, more than me. So yeah.
Okay. so
I think the
LinkedIn is-
interesting thing about you doing a podcast, Christopher, is that is what's always bothered me about LinkedIn Lives, which are basically talking heads. And if I'm catching them in replay, I'll often have them in the background while I'm, because I'm not missing anything. Almost never is anybody using screens. I mean, I'm just
Right.
struck with the model that came up was talk, 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 and I shouldn't complain because you allowed me to be part of yours, and I loved I love calm, clear conversations. But I think many of us in the last 2 years, and that may be why we have fewer Zoom bombers because they're not at home anymore. They're able to be out. Yeah, I think I live by, I've had audiobooks in my ears for 20 years now. And my sister said, well, you used to have the transistor radio bud in your ear, for those that are old enough to know what that looked like. But I would hate to lose what you've brought. Your intellectual property for me is interesting people, but people that most people I'm connected to wouldn't be connected to, and that bring up for what I see you as the threads of conversations we need to have, like some of the ones you've had where they've also been about different books. And then you and I got into that at the very end. And other times where you've talked about what I would say would be difficult conversations, but you've got you and someone else who's of a group that needs to be able to surface their information. And so when you said you might do a single podcast, I love your voice in my ear anytime I can. It is very calming. Although I don't use it to put me to sleep for sure. I use books for that. But I would ask you to consider that maybe occasionally you would have a guest on when there might be an opportunity. So you have less of the burden of arranging a guest, and then the technology, but that you don't close yourself off to that, because your conversations are great. And I think it's a real value you provide to our community in LinkedIn.
I see that with a number of podcasts where they have short, like 5-minute, like you're describing, and then guests in between, and it's a mix and match. So it doesn't have to be just one or the other. I don't know how their listeners respond to that. It's typically when I'm looking to be a guest, so I scroll through and see what a podcast has to get, and then listen. But it gives me a better idea of what they're doing. I don't pitch without having listened to the podcast first. So.
Okay, so I have some homework to do so that I'll be launching a podcast in Q3 that is technical information and conversations on occasion. Okay.
I think you should feel free to do that and not be bound by it has to be one or the other.
Right.
I've certainly seen other people doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the nice things about a podcast is that you can do them on any kind of schedule you want. You can do one this quarter and not another one till the beginning of the year, and then you can do 3 in a row, right? So it's whenever you have the desire and the bandwidth.
Absolutely. Although, so watching Brenda develop her podcast and launch it, and it gave me a really good insight into what the process could look like. It's like, all right, have a couple in the can before I ever launch it. So I can get those first few out without the pressure of, well, when's the next one coming out?
Right.
And yeah. So
Brenda and several others take a lot of whatever they're doing in their lives and then just transfer it to a different platform. I don't know how that works, but yes.
Exactly. And one of the things I had initially thought about, like even with the newsletter, is just doing an audio version of the newsletter. So
I know someone who who does audio version, newsletter, and let's see, he's got 3 different ways of doing it. Arvid, let me see. I really like what he does. I don't typically listen to all of that, but yeah, I can't. Oh, Arvid, what's your last name? It's the bootstrappedfounder.com. And he's
Okay.
actually really, really good. He does a lot of building in public. He's started a number of software businesses. And so as he's doing it, he sends out his newsletter. And he'll also interview someone. So it's a blog, it's a newsletter, and it's an audio podcast as well. He gets like 3 for 1 out of it. And
Wonderful.
yeah. Arvid
Exciting.
Kahl, Kahl. So he's worth paying attention to.
And I just saved the transcript so that I have the correct spelling and the name. Thank you. That's one of the things that, by enabling the transcript right away, when information is shared, I have it captured.
So when you say you're enabling the transcript, what does that mean?
Oh, no. Because I had enabled the transcript before I opened the doors. And when Marjorie spelled the person's name, I saved the transcript so that I have the correct spelling of the name in the transcript. Now, as a guest, one of Zoom's quirks is it doesn't start the transcript for you until you say start the transcript.
So transcript is different than the AI companion. I don't know what the transcript is.
Oh, transcript. So if you go ahead and click on, it should be under the up caret next to CC, show full transcript. So on the toolbar should be about right
I'm looking
here.
at the
Oh,
toolbar.
okay. Yep.
Under
Might have it under more.
captions.
Okay, captions, and then view
Yep.
full transcript. And when you say view full
okay.
transcript, the first thing it's going to say, hey, what
Yeah, under
language?
show captions.
And then, and then now if you view the full transcript, it will have everything from the moment you said view transcript or enable transcript.
But then there's a save transcript button right there.
Exactly.
So does it save everything that's been, or just right there?
It saves from when you started the transcript.
Not when you just said.
Well, yeah. A best practice is to enable it as soon as you start your meeting.
Okay.
As soon as you join a meeting, hey, let me enable the transcript because somebody in this room is going to say something I want to keep track of, and I don't feel like taking notes. How good is it? It is pretty good.
How do you transfer it back to where do you save? Same as the chat?
It does. So when you save the chat, it goes into your downloads folder, most likely if you're on a PC. When you click on save transcript here, then it will give you the option to show in folder where that is. And then you'll know exactly where that is.
I'm not seeing the little buttons, the little 3 dots to.
For which one?
For the transcript. How do you,
so if you view transcript.
Show in folder. Okay.
There you go.
So, got it. Okay. All right.
And it does a really good job of capturing exactly what is said.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Does the transcript have to be visible on my screen the whole time?
No.
Oh, I like that.
All right, there are 2 different things. The closed captioning, that you can turn off or you can show or hide the closed caption.
Right.
The transcript is in a separate window. It does not have to be displayed. unless
what I
you
wanted
want
to
it
know.
displayed. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so for most of the meeting, I don't have it displayed, but I like to make sure I save it before the meeting ends.
So this would actually be the same as a closed caption, I would think. I mean,
Pretty
it's
much.
really doing what a
Yeah.
closed caption is doing.
But it sounds
Exactly.
as though the difference is that I can't save the closed captions separately.
Correct.
Wow, okay.
Okay,
That's
so now
cool.
I now have another closed caption question.
Yes.
If I enable the closed captions in my meeting and I'm recording it, do those closed captions show up in the recording when somebody views the recording? Because I haven't seen it.
No, but they're in a file so that you could add them.
Oh,
So you could have, when you upload that video someplace else, you could upload with it captioning.
interesting.
So
All right, I'm gonna have
it's,
to try that.
yeah, it's something to play with. And having it downloaded with the recording allows you to edit anything that needs to be corrected. If someone is a fast talker and there has not been a bit of punctuation from the moment they took a breath to the end of the meeting, and there is no punctuation, they're not going to slow down for any punctuation. They don't need any. All right. That's one person. Someone who speaks more succinctly or with not only implied punctuation, but actual punctuation, it is captured.
Got it.
So I've seen it where there is a comma where you would expect a comma to be. There is a period where you would expect a period to be. It does a pretty good job. It also does a pretty good job of spelling.
Okay.
So a demonstration I gave to a potential client, they were asking me to describe what I do. I said, well, I'm I hold that interstitial space.
Ooh, I like
I
that
said,
word.
well, interstitial, I don't know what that word is. I said, well, we've enabled captions. So now you have exactly how that word is spelled. And I'll tell you what I mean when I use it. So no one goes and looks at a brick wall for the mortar. They want to see, if it's a beautiful brick wall, you're not paying attention to the mortar. The mortar is there to hold the bricks up. I'm the mortar for your presentation, for
Oh, I
the
like that.
conference.
Mhm.
All of the speakers are there. That's who people are paid to, that's who
Do
they
you
want to see.
use that metaphor?
I do.
Yeah.
It's a great
It's
metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
So yeah, I'm there to make sure it is held up and people can look at and ooh and ah and hey, if something goes wrong, yeah, we'll be right back with our next presentation, and there I can be
Yep.
that calming presence.
Yep. For me, that's the same. My role as an editor is to make you look the best you can, not to notice me at all. So it's again the making you forefront, and mine is behind the scenes, making you look best you can.
Exactly. And editors are the best.
Everybody deserves a good editor.
So tangentially related, a book I'm in the middle of, Robert Caro's The Power Broker. So it's a fascinating book. It is 1,300 pages. And his editor, and you think, wait, 1,300 pages, he had an editor? Yes. So he and his editor, they worked together for a number of books. Robert Caro is known as someone who turns every page in doing the research. He can't just hear something, well, where do you have documentation about this happening? He finds all of the information. So his books on Lyndon Baines Johnson, those are also huge volumes.
Mhm.
Now, if you're an Audible type of person, hey, it's still just one credit. So the Power Broker is 66 hours. Okay, that's just one credit.
1 credit, I don't know what you mean by that.
So Audible gives you a number of credits to get books. So you can
Oh,
buy
okay.
the book or you can just buy a credit. And, whether it is a pamphlet of, 5 pages or whether it is 66 hours, it's still just 1 credit.
Got it.
So from the purchaser's perspective, you either get a little bit or you get a lot. It's just the one. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
thank you all for your
Thank you.
questions and insights and helping
Mhm.
this community thrive.
Thank
It's
you
good
for
to see
doing
you.
this, Christopher. We really appreciate it.
Mhm.
Same.
All right.
And next month, bring your questions and we'll see if we can come up with answers.
Sounds good.